Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's hearing. Glad to have you all here. I'm going to ask Ms. Hill to read the docket.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this proceeding before the Public Service Commission in docket number 2019-342-T concerns the application of MLCB, Inc., DBA College Hunks Hauling Junk and Moving for a Class E household goods certificate in 3 contiguous counties, Aiken, Edgefield, and McCormick. There have been no objections or interventions, and Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the docket is in order to proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll take appearances now.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Jeremy Hodges on behalf of the applicant, MLCB Incorporated.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Alex Knowles on behalf of ORS.
Mr. Knowles, welcome. Thank you. Okay, is there anything we need to do preliminarily? That's the hardest word I have in this whole business.
Yes, there is, Mr. Chairman. The applicant filed an amended application in this case that made a few changes, I believe in early January. And just so that it's clear and that we're all proceeding based on the amended application, I'd like to make a motion that and this is consistent with the changes that were made in the application, a motion that the name of the applicant be changed as reflected in the amended application so that it is also changed on the docket as well.
Okay, what do we need to do?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Good morning, Mr. Hodges. How are you today?
Morning, Commissioner.
Y'all are asking to add a DBA, is that correct?
That's correct. When the applicant met with the Office of Regulatory Staff during a site visit, we were encouraged to amend the application to not only include the formal name of the incorporated entity, but also the DBA name. So one change was to add the DBA name throughout the application. So wherever the incorporated name was identified, we added the DBA. One other change in the application was to correct an error. We had inadvertently marked no on a question where the right answer is yes. And it is the question, I believe, on page 7 where the applicant is asked whether they are familiar with and agree to comply with all applicable rules and regulations and statutes. So that was an important one for us to...
That's kind of fatal, isn't it?
I believe so.
Right.
Those were the 2 changes we made, the DBA name and then correct that question on page 7.
And is the applicant operating under that DBA in Georgia as well?
I believe so, but subject to confirmation.
I can ask the.
I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, though, Commissioner.
Okay, good. Then, so we're doing the DBA as College Hunks Hauling and Junk and Moving. So that's granted. We'll do that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't have any other preliminary matters.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Knowles?
No, sir, nothing from ORS.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I ask another question? I thought this was going to come up.
Well, certainly.
Mr. Hodges, in the amended application, there are some pages that are missing from that. But were those pages from the original application? There were no changes on that, so those weren't included. Is that correct?
That's correct. And to clarify that, the confusion that was created by doing that this morning, we've assembled one complete copy of the amended application, delivered that to Ms. Wheat, and that will be, as I understand it, added to the docket once we're done here today so that there is an amended application that is complete and doesn't have any missing pages.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and that's gonna be part of Exhibit 1 when we enter those, correct? I think. Go ahead. I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and present the case, Mr. Hodges, and we'll get to all that, and you can tell me as we go.
Okay. Well, for our first and only witness, Chairman, we'd call Mr. Michael McKinney.
raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Man, we're still not on, I don't think. Unsure. Get that red light and yeah, you're good.
Now we'll move podium so that I'm not at an awkward angle with the witness. Mr. McKinney, can you please state your name for the record?
Michael McKinney,
And who are you appearing on behalf of here today?
MLC Inc., doing business as College Hunks, hauling junk and moving.
And what is your role with that company?
I'm the president of the corporation.
Can you give us your business address, please?
Sure. 3105 Spring Grove Drive, Unit D5, Augusta, Georgia, 30906.
And Mr. McKinney, did you file or cause to be filed an application for Class E household goods certificate of public convenience and necessity on behalf of the company and filed with this commission on or about October 29, 2019?
I did.
Okay. And did you also file or cause to be filed an amended application for Class E certificate of public convenience and necessity on behalf of the company on or about January 8th, 2020?
I did.
And a little earlier during the discussion of preliminary matters, did you hear me and Commissioner Belser have an exchange about the changes that were made in that amended application?
I did, yes.
Okay, and did we accurately capture all of the changes that were made in that amended application?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And subject to, do you have any other changes to or amendments to the application that you submitted on behalf of the company?
I did on the preliminary testimony. Not yet? Okay.
Let's put a pin in the testimony unless just on the application.
On the application, no.
Okay. So if we went through all of the questions and answers and information that were included in the amended application, if I asked you all those questions, your answers here would be the same?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the amended application be entered into the record as a hearing exhibit as pre-marked.
Okay. ORS, any objection with any of the changes? Just want to make sure.
No objection.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we will admit the application and that's including all the pre-filed testimony, correct or not? Not. So that'll be hearing exhibit number 1.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman. And Mr. McKinney, are you also the same Michael McKinney that caused to be filed pre-filed testimony consisting of 8 pages on or about Wednesday, January 15, 2020?
I am.
Okay. And you're familiar with that testimony?
I am.
All right. Do you have any changes to that pre-filed testimony?
I do. On page 4, lines 10 through 13, I'd like stricken. That's an incorrect question. I was confused about that inspection. ORS made that site inspection on January the 2nd, so I'd just like to eliminate that question and answer it in totality.
And just to clarify that, the question asked whether your vehicles have been inspected by the Department of Public Safety, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And I believe you, as you just explained, the reason for eliminating this was some confusion on your part as well as my part about who had actually done the site visit and inspected the vehicles, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And subject to that change, well, let me ask first, do you have any other changes to your pre-filed testimony?
No.
All right. And subject to the change that you just shared with us, if we went through the rest of the questions in your pre-filed testimony, would your answers to those questions be the same?
They would.
Mr. Chairman, subject to the change as indicated by the witness, I would like to move that the pre-filed testimony be entered into the record as hearing exhibit number 2.
We'll do this as stand, right? We will enter Mr. McKinney's pre-filed direct testimony as amended with the changes as though given orally from the stand.
I forgot those words there, as if orally from the stand. Thank you,
Got it.
Mr. Commissioner. We have also pre-marked as composite hearing exhibit, which I believe would be number 3, the proposed bill of lading and tariff that the applicant intends to use. And at this time, I would ask those to be entered as the next hearing exhibit.
Okay, the final proposed tariff and bill of lading will be entered as exhibit number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McKinney, have you prepared a summary of your testimony for the commission?
I have.
Okay, please go ahead and give that.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for having me here today. My name is Michael McKinney, and I am the owner and president of MLCB Incorporated. MLCB is a franchise of and intends to do business as College Hunks Hauling Junk and Moving. Our physical address is 3105 Spring Grove Drive, Unit D5, Augusta, Georgia 30906. We have applied for and expect to receive a Class B household goods certificate in Georgia shortly. I am here today to testify in support of our Class E household goods certificate in South Carolina. Before starting MLCB, I worked as a civil engineer for more than 40 years with experience in commercial industrial construction as a project manager and program director. As indicated in my testimony, many of these projects required coordination of moves in and out of to facilitate renovations and other projects to be completed. Equipment, goods, and people were involved in those efforts. So while I did not work directly in the household moving industry, I believe that I have experience in my prior career that will translate to the household goods moving industry. Augusta, Georgia is of course a border town, and part of our business plan is to be available for service clients located in South Carolina counties that are contiguous and in close proximity to Augusta. For that reason, our application requests service in Aiken, Edgefield, and McCormick counties. Our Class B application for household goods certification in Georgia is currently pending, and we expect to receive that soon. Once we have received it, we will be able to service all counties in the state of Georgia. As set forth in my pre-filed testimony, we determined that the public convenience and necessity was not being adequately served in the greater Augusta area. We also determined that the region was growing and that there was space for another professional, high-quality mover of household goods. We have made necessary investments in physical space, equipment, employees, and insurance to comply with all applicable statutes and regulations. I also believe that we have a business plan, as described more fully in my pre-filed testimony, that will allow us to hit the ground running upon approval of our Class E application. On behalf of MLCB, Inc., I look forward to working with the Office of Regulatory Staff and State Transport Police to ensure compliance with all applicable rules and regulations. I also hope that as our business grows, we will have the opportunity to come back to this commission and talk about expanding our service territory in South Carolina. Lastly, thank you for your time and attention today.
Mr. Chairman, I do not have any further questions for the witness, and we'll make them available for cross-examination by ORS as well as questions from the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Mr. Knowles, any questions?
Just one quick clarifying question.
Sir.
Morning, Mr. McKinney.
Morning.
You testified that you understand that if approved, you may only originate moves in the 3 counties where you have requested authority. Is that right?
That's correct.
And Mr. McKinney, do you also understand that your moves must also terminate within one of those counties?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No more questions.
Thank you. Commissioners. Commissioner Belzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. McKinney.
Morning.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Are y'all, I assume the trade name College Hunks is also being applied for in Georgia, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it was just a omission here?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine. I noticed on page 3 of your pre-file testimony, there was a question, does MLCB Inc. have a satisfactory safety rating? And you indicated that, yes, you do. Yeah. Transport Police, how big is your truck? Are y'all required to have a safety rating?
No, ma'am, we're not. Right now, our truck is a 20-foot moving van. We will go up to a 26-foot, but we will be below the 26,000-pound weight limit. So the bigger issue is that with DOT, I have to be an interstate mover, and that adds a little bit more. So our trucks have been inspected in a DOT annual inspection, and we will maintain those inspections and logs for interstate moving. We don't operate with CDL drivers because we don't run heavy trucks.
Okay, when you say a 20-foot moving van, that's like a box truck, just a smaller one than the
Yes.
26-foot?
Yes.
Okay. Appreciate your testimony on that. Tell me about what you've identified as the need over in the North Augusta, Aiken, Edgefield area.
With the tritium mission being brought back online at Savannah River site, that's bringing an awful lot of engineers and scientists back into the community that have been gone for the last 15 years or so. So we're seeing an awful lot of movement in that area, as well as the Cyber Command being initiated at Fort Gordon in Georgia. There's an awful lot of influx all around the CSRA because of that. So we see a need for a high-quality local mover to help service both sides of the river, if you will.
Have y'all already started operations with the junk side of the business?
Yes, we have, and with Move Labor. We opened for business on September the 9th and have been doing junk removal, general labor, and Move Labor since that time.
How many employees do you have?
At the moment, we have 6.
Okay, and how many of those are on the trucks actually doing the moving?
Everybody will be on the trucks. I have one operations manager that helps me run the business, but all of the other employees are on the trucks in one capacity or the other.
Tell me about experience as far as your workers are, as far as packing trucks and packing people's goods, because, I mean, you're going into people's homes, and this is what they've worked their whole lives for, and their belongings, and they want to make sure they're taken care of.
Absolutely. To join our team, we don't require that you have any experience, but on day one, we start doing hands-on training. We use a learning management system that's online from our corporate office. We teach how to pack, how to load, how to disassemble and reassemble, how to take doors off the hinges in case we needed a wider opening, things like that. We keep a lot of pieces of furniture of different sizes in the warehouse, and virtually every day we have a few minutes where we go through and refresh how to wrap a chair or a sofa or a china hutch. So we continually train. We constantly use our learning management system and progress our employees through the business.
Okay. Thank you. In your tariff, I was looking, I don't know if you have a copy.
I do.
I'm in section 1.2, minimum hourly charges.
Yes, ma'am.
The sentence, customers are not charged an additional fee for overtime labor. Tell me what you mean by that. Because what I'm looking at is y'all are charging by the hour.
We are.
And so I'm not sure what you mean by overtime labor.
We would not put a 1.5 multiplier on the customer's charge. Now, from the company point of view, if we run with overtime, that's on the company. I don't try to recoup that because you don't know which customer is in the overtime, and it's not fair to them.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification. Mr. McKinney, thank you for being here today, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioner Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions, Mr. McKinney. You certainly, in answering Commissioner Belser's question, you certainly laid out two specific examples of movement into your area with Fort Gordon and with Savannah River site, and you certainly laid out reasons why people are moving to both sides of the river down there in the CSRA, and certainly those are things that we look at with new applicants. Want to take just a minute to comment about your insurance. I know my colleagues are probably getting tired of me being the insurance guy every time, but maybe somebody else can carry that mantra on. But I want to comment because your numbers certainly, I want to compliment you because they certainly meet and exceed our requirements. I do want to mention, and it, obviously you're a businessman, I can tell, but your liability premium is a little bit higher than what we see, and I'm just thinking about that as in your cost going forward. And I'm certainly not asking you to back down on your coverage at all because you got great limits, and I'm certainly not implying that. I'm just letting you know it's typically higher than what we see for household movers.
Yes, sir. That's more driven by our corporate requirements.
I see.
And they are, those limits are covered, or will cover both Georgia and South Carolina, but it's more indicative of a corporate requirement.
Well, on our end, it looks great, and it protects the public, which is what we're here for, and it protects you as the insured. So I certainly applaud you for that, but I just, at the same token, would note, you know, through my observation in my 11 and a half years here, that's very much on the high side. But as long as you and your corporate have that in your business plan and are prepared for that, certainly not my business to meddle or micromanage, but I want to applaud you on those numbers. Mr. McKinney, not anything to do with this case, but in your testimony, you talked about being an engineer before. You seem so familiar from somewhere. Where did you work?
I have worked in Greenville, South Carolina, with the school board's capital program that ran from 2002 to 2007. I directed that program.
I see.
So the Greenville plan is what we brought to the table there.
You worked in Greenville?
Yes. I see. Very male. And I also worked with Michelin in their Lexington campus, expanding their earth mover tire facility, as well as building a few facilities for their high-performance car tires.
Might be Michelin. One of those two. You seem familiar, but yes. Thank you for being here, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything? Commissioner Irvin.
This may have been covered earlier, and if so, I apologize, but do you currently have workers' compensation coverage for your employers?
Yes, sir.
Employees, rather?
Yes, sir.
And is that through the state of Georgia?
For both states.
Both states, that's good. I suppose they were hired in Georgia, but they do work in both states.
They work in both states, and because we're incorporated in South Carolina, and I have offices in both states, we carry both states.
Glad you got that covered.
Yes.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners. Anything else? Okay, Mr. Hodges, any redirect or anything else that you need to bring before us?
Nothing further from the applicant.
Great, thank you. Mr. McKinney, thank you for your testimony, and you may step down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Knowles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday, ORS filed its customary letter stating that we believe the applicant will meet the requirements of fit, willing, and able. We shared a copy of that letter this morning with Mr. Hodges, Ms. Hill, and Ms. Wheat, and at this time we would ask that it be entered into the record as the next hearing exhibit.
Okay, the ORS letter will be entered as hearing exhibit number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then the only other thing I'll note is that, again, as is customary, ORS has brought Mr. McGill here to answer any questions in the event that the Commission has any for him.
Thank you. Mr. McGill really wants to answer a question if anybody wants to bring him up there. 2 whole days. Okay. You're off the hook again, Mr. McGill. Okay. Anything else to come before us in this hearing?
Nothing from the applicant.
Thank you. All right.
Nothing from ORS.
Wonderful. Okay. If not, then we are adjourned.